Good afternoon, and welcome to another webinar sponsored by the Greenwich Medical Library. Today's topic is resources for healthy holiday eating, and I'm hoping by this holiday season, after watching this, you will proclaim I'm not stuffed, as opposed to the usual colloquial saying is I am stuffed. My name is Veronica Blanken, and I'm the Consumer Health Librarian at Greenwich Hospital. For those of you who do not know what that is, I basically help Greenwich community members and beyond with finding health information. It could be through print or through digital resources mostly. And it's with the overwhelming amount of information that the internet provides, it can be hard to find exactly what you're looking for, or even to trust the information that's out there, or to know if it's true. So I help narrow down through all the muck and help people make better healthcare decisions as a result. So with the holidays upcoming, I figured this would be a really relevant topic for a lot of people. If people are unable to make it to the webinar tonight, I will have this up on my website, and I will explain that all at the end of the presentation, and I will be taking a Q&A within the last 10 minutes of this hour. So please wait to ask questions until the end. I'd really appreciate that. So before we begin, I always start all my webinars with an important disclaimer that this presentation is for educational and informational purposes only, as I'm only certified as a librarian. I'm not clinical. Always consult your doctor or other healthcare provider for medical advice before making any lifestyle decisions that may impact your health. This is going to be very nutrition heavy kind of presentation. We have a great resource here in Greenwich Hospital, the Center for Behavioral Nutritional Health. They have a lot of great programs regarding weight loss, and they have a lot of nutritionists and registered dietitians on staff. I am simply telling you in this presentation where to find resources with reliable information in it. And the resources that I will be promoting today are free for everyone, and they're not paying me to promote them, so that is why I also put down no sponsored content will be featured. So I've split up today's objective into 3 parts. First objective is to provide a brief overview of the statistics and dietary guidelines from the Department of Agriculture that are relevant to today's topic. Share tips on how to prepare for holiday parties and meals. And to also, I will provide resources and tools for just general weight management. So the question that a lot of people might be asking is, why shouldn't I binge this holiday season? I mean, that's when the time when all the great food is out there. It's been a very stressful year. You know, if you've been keeping up with anything that's going on in the news, and with COVID, keeping everybody inside, I'm not saying that you shouldn't celebrate to your heart's content that we made it through a really bad year. However, it is I have several studies that talk about exactly why it's not a good idea to cheat, to use this holiday season as an excuse to cheat on a strict diet that you may be on for medical reasons, or if you've made like a promise to yourself to lose weight by a certain time. Yeah, you definitely want to take a look at this then, because from what I've seen from studies on this very topic about weight management during the holidays, there was a 2014 study that's found that between November and mid-January, Americans gained an average of 1 to 2 pounds of weight over the holidays, which apparently, according to them, apparently the most common thought about this was that it would be 5 pounds, but actually, according to their study, it was only 1 to 2, which may not seem like a lot, but it was found to be around 5 pounds for people who are already overweight, which may be for a lot of older people, that is the case. And for those of you who are not overweight, you still have to be careful, because it will contribute to overall annual excess weight gain, because it's hard to take it off after the holidays as well. So, and then for our diabetics that are out there who are definitely on a strict diet to keep their A1C levels down and their blood sugar, and to monitor the blood sugar, show that holiday eating, 2004 diabetes studies showed that holiday eating influences poor glycemic control among type 2 patients and increases A1C levels. It's the same as the annual excess weight gain. The A1C levels increase during that period after the holidays because it's hard to get out of that state of overindulgence once you allow yourself to overindulge. And this was surprising. There was a 2016 study that showed that cardiac morbidity and heart failure peak around the holiday season, followed by increased ED admissions. So the study cited that while it didn't occur on the holidays themselves, specifically Independence Day and Christmas, it did occur in the beginning of January or right after New Year's. So all that food that you pile up, for those of us who have a family history of heart attacks, got to be careful this season, especially since that seems like a very bad time to have a heart attack, but it's very common given the type of food that we eat during this period. So aside from those, there is an additional reason why, particularly this year, it's really not advised to overindulge or try to cheat this holiday season, and that is because of a term that was recently coined, COVID-obesity. And I think from that it's pretty self-explanatory that there was a recent study, like just last month recent, that showed that there's prevalence of weight gain among all Americans due to the pandemic, since it not only closed down gyms and all outdoor activities, there's been more takeout and deliveries, which are notorious for giving out processed foods, an increase in food and alcohol shopping, and lockdowns just generally change people's healthy behaviors. We become more lethargic, more sedentary, because not only are we forced to work from home at a lot of remote jobs, being confined to the computer, sitting on the computer all day, we're also relegated to doing a lot of indoor activities that just involve sitting. Well, I mean, if you're making bread, perhaps you're standing, but it's not really that active. So that is why, especially during this time when we're really not sure when we can be active again, it's really not a good idea to cheat this year, because we've probably already gained a lot more weight than we usually would during the year. And then in general, around this time of year, everybody's going to have reduced sleep cycles due to daylight savings that's going to occur soon, and with all the everybody getting used to getting darker much sooner. Seasonal depression is a very common condition at this time, which leads to a lot of stress and therefore stress eating. And because it's so dark, and with that seasonal depression, inconsistent exercise is common as well. So those are the additional weight gain sources. And this is just a list of when I look at my Google Calendar, we've got almost 10 food center holidays that revolve around I counted Halloween just because, that's when the pumpkin spice lattes come out. That's when the apple cider starts making its appearance. And when, of course, all the candy starts happening and people buy a ton. And if they don't get a lot of trick-or-treaters, they have a ton left over. So that's why I added Halloween. But in terms of everything, we've got so many parties that we're possibly going to be attending. Not only that, but a lot of workplaces bring in constantly stuff, to offices and workplaces, all sorts of sweets and snacks that are really hard to resist when they're right there. But we want to make sure that we develop some behaviors beforehand to prevent us from overindulging. And we're going to go to the next slide. So all the nutritional information that I'm going to provide for you today is based on the 2015 to 2020 dietary guidelines that are outlined by the Department of Agriculture, which is part of the Department of Health. There is a new edition coming out every 5 years, so there's going to be a new set of guidelines for 2020 to 2025, but this is the latest. Like I said, it's developed by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's considered the gold standard of nutrition because it includes every daily recommendation for all sorts of things like protein, calcium intake, just anything you can think of nutrition-wise for all demographics from 2 years old to over 60. Yeah, appropriate servings and percentage of calories especially. And they kind of go over what the general trend has been in terms of obesity rates and the lack of or need for more exercise in all places in America, and for workplaces, schools to emphasize, healthier choices and for food and exercise. So I'm not going to go over the entire guideline today, but the main thing about the dietary guidelines is they're not specifying like a specific diet, those fad diets like keto, paleo, or anything. They're more of concern with portion control. So, and that all food groups, how keto, you can't have carbs, or paleo, you have to have a certain amount of meat. You gotta incorporate all the food groups, but in different portions. So, for instance, vegetables, they have to be dark green and mostly legumes. Grains should be whole, if anything. Proteins need to be lean, or you can try seafood. Fruits should be whole, and the dairy, whatever dairy you eat, should be fat-free or low fat. And this is a nice visual that I found, that the specific amount of vegetables and fruits should make up half your plate, with the other 2/4 going to protein and grains. The dairy should just be like a very small portion, like cup size at most. So that's essentially what they want people's plates, dinner plates, meals to look like on a daily basis. It shouldn't exceed, your carb intake shouldn't exceed more than 1/4. Your vegetables and fruits should be the majority of your meal, essentially. That's based on the guidelines. And let me just quickly show you the what it looks like to view the current edition. As you can see, this is the website for the Dietary Guidelines of America. If you want to read the whole thing, you press read more, and it shows you a PDF file of just the entire guideline edition. And it's very long, but very, very informative. And there's another site that I will be talking about that outlines it in a more clear and consumer-friendly way. So we'll get to that in another slide. I think in the next slide, actually. Yeah. So here we go. Yep. So this is the choosemyplate.gov is a website that's also part of the Department of Agriculture. It's what I use a lot of the time when I'm promoting educational materials for nutrition. This website and program provides the daily needed servings of each of the food groups we just talked about for different ages. It promotes healthy eating with portion control and incorporating all the food groups. Like I said, it's just a subset of the dietary guidelines. And the website itself includes recipes, videos, and cookbooks that range from whatever occasion you're doing, seasonal or included. So this visual is what they're doing to promote good holiday eating. So it says right here, fill appetizer plates with vegetables, keep healthy snacks with you, fill dessert plates with fruits as opposed to any sugary treats like cookies and such. Make a healthy plate for lunch or dinner. Eat a healthy snack plate with fruits and vegetables before going to parties. Those are just the majority of tips that they're giving. We're going to be going over those and more in a few later slides, so that's why I'm not emphasizing them now. But if you guys can't read down here what it says for each group, I'll read it out to you right now. Right down there it says, for vegetables, you fill half your plate with fruits and veggies in holiday colors. So make sure that, again, it's half your plate. This should be dedicated to veggies and fruits. Fruits add color, spirit, flavor to desserts. So you can try the pumpkin pie instead of the con pie for healthier choice. Make stuffings with whole grains, bread, and brown rice. I'm guessing you mean the turkey stuffings. The protein that the turkey breast, for example, is always the leanest holiday choice. Keep the gravy low in fat. And for dairy, the yogurt makes a great party dip. Blend skim milk with bananas to make a healthy smoothie like banana nog, as opposed to the much healthier and sugar-filled eggnog. I'm assuming is what they're referring to. So let me just quickly take you through choosemyplate.gov. I'm just going to show you the specific things that make it a good resource. So this is what the front page looks like. So as you can see, you can start simple with MyPlate just to get a sense of what it's talking about, and then for each of the food groups are up here. So if you wanted to know what's the daily recommended intake of fruits for someone your age, well, we can go right here specifically to the fruit section, and you can see how much fruit is needed daily. It depends on age, sex, and level of physical ability, obviously, but you can go right here down to, for instance, if I say a woman like of 27 years old, it says I need 2 cups of fruit each day. So, and that really depends on, these are amounts our pro referred to as less than 30 minutes per day. I do a little bit more than that, so I will probably need more than just 2 cups. I'll probably need 3 cups at least. And then it says, it even tells you examples of what a cup of fruit might look like and what types of fruit you could do out of it. So it goes, that this same goes for all these other ones. See, they have the same fruit tables for vegetables, for grains, proteins, dairy, oils, etc. So very informative, very educational. And then when we go to resources, we've got plans, toolkits, quizzes, and I think, yeah, okay, so this is what I want to show you. So the dietary guidelines is if you go to the Eat Healthy tab and you go all the way down and you go to the dietary guidelines, this is where you can see that you also have a link to the dietary guidelines that we just talked about on the previous slide. And not only does it do that, it also has a section where it summarizes the important highlights. So it lists the top things Americans should know when it comes to dietary guidelines. So instead of looking through that whole thing and not really understanding much of it because it's so long and very small wording, you can just look at those and have a much clearer explanation of what the guidelines are about. And then last but not least, wanted to show you where you can find recipes on here. So go to recipes when you click on the tab My Plate Kitchen. So down here is where all of your recipes would be. So if you're looking for limiters that say, oh, like keto option or paleo option, it's not going to have that because they're not trying to promote specific diets like that. They do have for cuisines, like they do have vegetarian option over here if you want to look up that. If you wanted to look up specifically holiday recipes, you just type in here holiday and it should bring up a few options. Yep, so all these would be the healthier options or recipes that you could try out for the holiday season. And then they also, for those of you who are more visually oriented, like if you don't want to just read a recipe, you want to actually see exactly how it's done, you go to My Plate Kitchen Recipes, which is a YouTube channel. And it's taking a little bit to load, but yeah, so I personally like to view videos instead of reading a recipe. I like to make sure that I'm cooking it exactly the right way. It's taking a while to load. Won't keep us waiting, but oh, as soon as I clicked out of it, it was appearing, but whatever. So you understand that the My Plate is a really, Choose My Plate is a really great resource. So if you just want to know more about the daily recommended servings of food groups, and just to get a sense of what you can make for the holiday season, if it's a good starting point, essentially is what I'm saying. So let's continue. So besides in gathering all that information, once you gather all that information from a site like this, how do you get started in actually managing that weight? Or, you know, if you want to get started before the holidays to figure out what's going to be your strategy for avoiding temptation and not overindulging. And to be clear, I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy yourself this holiday season. Just don't, if you really want to stick to a diet, if you want to really manage that weight, you gotta think of it strategically. So here's what I was able to get from the CDC website on this specific subject. So Before the holidays start, you can start by tracking your daily food intake. You can use a food diary or a weight tracking app, which I will be mentioning in a minute, some examples. That's so you can figure out just what does an average day for you look like when it comes to eating. Because when you do that, you can start to look for unhealthy eating habits you may have or cues that triggers those habits. For instance, a lot of us suffer from stress eating, eating when we're bored, skipping meals, etc. And by doing so, when we start to see these patterns, we can start incorporating healthier habits such as planning out our meals, eating more slowly, or only eating when truly hungry into our daily routine. So you're kind of strategizing by figuring out what exactly needs improvement. And we all know, unfortunately, that it's not really just about eating, right? It's also about expending that energy. So it's really important that you find 10 to 30 minutes during the day for moderate aerobic exercise. According to CDC, adults need 150 minutes of aerobic exercise each week. But that sounds like a lot, but when you separate it down, it's about 10 to 30 minutes a day, which you can easily fit into a week. Some people might say that, oh, I have work, or, I'm a parent, I don't have time to dedicate to that. Well, there's a lot of activities you can do to get around that. For instance, there are a lot of fitness videos on YouTube. That's what I've been trying to do now that my gym is still not operational during COVID. There is an option of going for a walk, just a short walk around lunchtime, or that's supposed to say or after work. A lot of people supplement their exercise by doing yard work. Around this time, we're going to be doing a lot of raking. And then there are just hobbies or activities that are outdoors, such as biking, ice skating, dancing, a water aerobics class at the local gym, etc. Anything to just keep you moving, but it's also fun. Now, I realize that it's a lot difficult to do that during a pandemic, but I still see people in this community at least walking around, and that's like a great way to do any type of exercise just by itself. And like I said, there are a lot of free fitness videos on YouTube that people can try out for all different ages. So this is an example of what I described earlier, which is the food diary, just a way for you to log what you're eating every day, and then being able to see where there might be improvements. And then the two apps that I recommend for weight tracking are MyFitnessPal and FujiKate. The MyFitnessPal is the first one that's in bright blue over here, and then the FujiKate is the little smiling orange. This is strawberries, scrambled eggs, honey, non-Greek fat yogurt, and then it would put down the calories for it. And you would make a goal when you sign up for the app. When you sign up for the app, you put in the goal weight that you want to lose, and then it determines how much calories you should intake per day in order to get to that goal eventually. I won't go into too much more detail than that because I did go over this in my healthy apps webinar a couple weeks back, but I'm definitely planning on redoing that webinar again. So if you want me to go into more detail about it, but again, any questions, save them for the Q&A. So another way to, and especially if you're bringing something or you're hosting, is to just find ways to make traditional classic meals with different substitutions. So we just talked about how meats should be leaner, whole grains should be whole. We emphasize dark greens for vegetables, and fruits should be whole. So first, in order to figure out what to substitute, we need to figure out what we need to limit or avoid. So this is a list that I've been able to find. Sodium, salty, or highly processed foods, saturated fats, which is most often the skin on the turkey. That's where a lot of the saturated fat would come from, for instance. Sweets or things with added sugar, fatty or processed meats, that's also the skin on the turkey. Trans fats or partially hydrogenated oils. A lot of people love to add gravy as part of their meal. That's obviously not a good idea. So a lot of the other examples on here, for instance, instead of butter, use a healthier vegetable oil or substitute equal parts unsweetened applesauce when baking. Low-calorie sugar substitute, using vegetable oils or soft margarine instead of butter. And then my favorite has been replacing salt with spices for added flavor as opposed to increasing the amount of sodium that you use. Oh, they also here, besides using spices, you do fresh herbs and citrus juice. So this page specifically is from the Holiday Healthy Eating Guide, which I found on the American Heart Association. I'll just quickly show you how to access that. Oh, it appears I put in the wrong link. Give me 1 second. American Heart Association. Healthy Heart Eating Guide. Okay, so I apologize for that. I think I put in the wrong link. It's giving me a completely different link from that. For some reason, things take longer to load at this point in the evening. I apologize. Okay. All right, so sorry for the delay. I'm gonna try using not Internet Explorer. That might be the way to go. Okay, so this is the American Heart Association website. It went to another tab that I think is important, the Smart Substitutions for Healthy to Eat Healthy. So it does say what we were talking about, but in more specific detail. For instance, for recipes, you would use whole milk. Instead of whole milk, you use fat-free or low-fat milk. They even have for snacks and tips for when you actually go out to eat in case you decide to go to a restaurant instead of cooking at home. So let me search up the Healthy Holiday Guide. So I wanted to bring that up specifically. Yep, so here it is. If you just type that in, Holiday Healthy Eating Guide. Yep, so this is, then they have a download holiday guide down here, and this is where I got that page. Not only does it have tips on the beverages, it also even has recipes at the very end. So, this is actually really important because caloric and alcoholic drinks are some of the biggest sources of calories and sugar for the holidays, so definitely want to replace or avoid them entirely. So as you can see, this is the page that I talked about on my slide, making traditions healthy. So you can still try to have a traditional meal, just have those easy substitutions that you can make. So here are the recipe sections are on the back with the instructions, with the nutritional information, and with those substitutions already in place. So they're obviously a lot healthier than traditional. Yep, so all the way down, we've got great resources and great recipes. Go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so I think we're right here, so we're gonna go to here. All right, so when you're actually physically at the holiday party, especially if you know you're going to your friend's house who's always does the same types of food that you really want to enjoy but don't want to overindulge in, what do you want to do during the holiday party to avoid binging? So the first hand that a lot of people think is a good idea is to skip meals beforehand. Do not do this. Do not skip meals thinking that, oh, if I starve myself, I won't get as many calories during the party, and I can eat whatever I want. This is a really bad idea because not eating your regular meals during the day will lower your blood sugar, which will make you more likely to overeat at the party. So instead of doing that, you want to stick to the regular meals that you usually have. Just keep your body on the same routine and have a light snack beforehand. I'm, for instance, having Friendsgiving and also Thanksgiving with my family. I'm planning to bring my own healthy dish. And we're all, because my friend is actually diabetic, we're all bringing special, dishes that adhere to what diabetics are approved for. So you can also do this in your work, or try to encourage this at your workplace too. Instead of having clients or your fellow employees bring in, sweets or cookies or whatnot, you can encourage them to bring something a little bit healthier. So if there is a buffet option at the holiday party, it may be really hard to not keep going back and getting more. However, you can start by taking the vegetables first. It should be half of your plate already, but it will make you fuller, which means that you won't want to keep going back because you're full already. Take a small plate of your favorites and then just walk away. Try to keep it out of sight so that'll be out of mind. And then all the recommendations emphasized eating slowly, because it takes about 20 minutes for your body to know that it's full. So if you eat slowly, you'll be able to tell much sooner when you're full, as opposed to eating really quickly and then having a really bad stomach ache later. And like I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest sources of calories and sugar are beverages such as eggnog, punch, beer, hot chocolate, apple cider and cocktails. I didn't know about the banana og smoothie, so that's something that I'd be able to substitute for something like eggnog. Anything with alcohol, as opposed to like getting a cocktail, you can ask to have a mocktail made for you as opposed to that. And there's also a lot of sugar substitutes you can use to make something like punch or apple cider. So there's definitely a lot of wiggle room when it comes to the substitutions. But if your party does have all these things, just bring something of your own that's a lot easier, or just ask for water. That's always the better option. So, like I said earlier, in terms of the buffet table, one of the hardest things to stay away from, of course, is the dessert section. Get a small plate of your favorite desserts and don't go back. There's this term that registered dietitians use called grazing. Don't graze at the buffet table, as in like just wander around it and keep looking at the food. Just out of sight, out of mind is the best way to avoid thinking about it. Eat some mint or gum to mildly suppress appetite. So I didn't realize this, but apparently gum and mint have some properties that mildly suppress your appetite and may make you fuller sooner. And then as a way to make friends at this party, why not share or split some of your dessert into pieces with them so that you're not just eating all of it for yourself. It's a good way to reduce those calories or sugar content. And because we want to encourage exercise and healthy digestion of said holiday meal, you can organize a walk or an outdoor activity before or after dinner. I myself always have my family take a walk around the neighborhood while the turkey is in the oven, and we also do it after if it's not too dark. A lot of people play football, or there's soccer outside in the backyard, biking or such, any sort of activity. There's even apparently video games where you can dance virtually. So there's just having some kind of exercise in the day can really help with your appetite and be able to get your metabolism going. So we might have make the mistake of getting a lot of these guilty pleasure foods in the house and then having a lot of leftovers after the party. If you're going to be going to a lot of holiday parties where there's going to be a lot of your favorite foods that have a lot of calories, try not to get those same foods in your house so that you don't end up gaining weight even if you do a good job at the holiday parties. And then any leftovers you have, just share it amongst friends, family, and neighbors. This is a holiday, the holiday season is one of giving, so why not give away your leftovers as well? And then I think a lot of people look this over, but getting some sleep is really important for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is to keep your body's weight management in shape. So because staying out late at the parties, or staying up for that matter, affects blood and cortisol levels, and of course that'll lead to stress eating. So, and then it'll also mess up your digestion, and if your sleep is out of whack. So definitely want to keep a consistent sleep schedule this whole holiday season, as tough as it can be. The recommended is obviously 7 to 8 hours. It's pretty well known. So if you don't know where to get started in terms of healthier recipes, like I said, the American Heart Association is really great. That's where that Healthy Holiday PDF guide was. And then we talked about Choose My Plate, so you can see the daily recommended food group servings that you need. I'll show you these last two because I didn't mention them yet. That's foodhero.org. And it appears that link is not working, so let me bring that up here. Hero.org. So this is a pretty easy to read and nicely looking website. They unfortunately don't have a holiday section, but they do have a lot of great lists that could be incorporated into a holiday. For instance, I see right here, baked apples and cranberries. That sounds delicious. As you can see, it highly emphasizes whole fruits. And for every recipe that's on here, you can get the ingredients, the directions, and specific notes. For the nutritional facts, you can view the label. So it tells you the nutritional facts right here. And what's great about recipes is that once you know exactly what you want or what you need, you can always modify it for your needs. So you can substitute sugar for sugar substitute and such. Like I said, they don't have a holiday section specifically. They do have a section for cooking for a crowd, which I assume will be very common for the holiday season. So I would most likely look in these kind of sections for recipes for the upcoming holidays. So like I said, it has pictures, it has nutritional label, and it has succinct directions. So I highly recommend this source. And then the other place that I got a lot of these tips from was the Mayo Clinic. And let's see if this link works. And it didn't. Okay. That's the problem with doing these links. They never work when you need them to. So these are the holiday recipes I was able to find when I was looking for holiday recipes. Celebrate with Healthy Festive Fare. You click on some of these and you'll be able to go to the same kind of thing. Let's see what looks good. Let's say we try the herb rub turkey au jus. So it goes over here. They have a dietitian's tip, they have a number of servings, ingredients, and directions, as well as a nutritional. Oh, look at that. They even have DASH eating plan servings. DASH diet is recommended for those with high blood pressure, so they even have what you would recommend with regards to this recipe for those adhering to the DASH diet. And they even have, for those diabetics, the specific servings that you would need for this recipe too. So they really go into depth and try to be as inclusive as possible. So that's really nice. All right, so I think that's about it. Also, just wanted to add that for those healthy recipes, those two apps that I mentioned, MyFitnessPal and FujiKate, they also have recipes on them. So you could definitely take a look there as well if you download those apps. So thank you very much for attending. Let me just see the participants. Did we add any more participants? Oh, it looks like Eric is not here anymore, but he did ask a question. Oh, okay, it was just a question they asked earlier. Okay. So for those of you who could not make it, this is my contact information. My phone is there, my email. I'm open to virtual or in-person appointments from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is my website. It's probably not going to work either. Okay. So that's where if you go onto my website, the Dr. Stephen Mickley Consumer Health Resource section. If you just type that whole name into Google, you can go to my website, and this is where you would look up programs. So we finished this one, but my next program is a book club about called Mom's Cancer, which is about some other author's cancer diagnosis of his mother. So that is a book club discussion. It's not a webinar, but the next upcoming webinar is for MyChart, the app where you can set up appointments and such. So that's going to be on November 10th from 6 to 7 p.m. If you're interested, please sign up the way that you signed up for this webinar. And if there are no participants, I don't believe there are any questions. So we're just going to wrap up for tonight. So please register for more free and upcoming webinars at greenwichhospital.org/events or call the number below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good night.